Hey, this is Mike with Motorrad Audio, and this is a continuation video for those of you installing our front pods on the BMW K1600s. This does basically apply to all years, and those who are doing the installation of the amplifier behind the left front fairing. So this is for the waterproof amplifier installation only. We're going to show you how to disassemble and take this off and how to mount that amplifier in here and wire it all in. So let's go. So the first step is going to be removing this plate here and this as well to be able to take this side off. So we'll start with these three Torxes there, the one that you see here, and then we'll go ahead and pull these on the top as well, because you do need to pull both of those, whether you have this or not. Those screws will be there. So let me get to doing that. So these are all going to still be the same T25 Torx that you're using. You'll notice these screws are of varying length, so you do want to make sure that you keep track of the fact that the longer screw was there. So when you go to do your reassembly, you have those in the right arrangement. So longer screw is in the middle, and then your outer three are all short screws. So now that we have those screws and that panel out, I'm going to pull this back. You have one Torx to remove here, and then you have this little pop rivet thing here. This is a plastic rivet. There's a tiny little dot right in the center of it that you'll push down with a pin, and that will release that pin. Quite often that little pin does vanish. If you're lucky, it makes it all the way down or stays in this panel when you take it off. But a lot of times those kind of disappear because they are quite small. So we'll get to taking those out now. So the best way to get this little pop rivet out is going to be a pick tool and a paper clip. So starting with the pick tool, you need something that's fairly solid. You'll push right in the center of it and pop that down. Once you have a little bit of it sunk in, you can take the paper clip and push it all the way through. You'll usually hear the pop piece fall down and hit the floor if you're lucky. If not, you may have to go digging for it later. I'd say 80% of the time it does actually come through and hit the floor. Don't think mine did that go around. Once you have that piece out, you're able to just pop that little plastic rivet right out. Take your Torx. And now we're good on the top. So there are two more Torx bits underneath here that need to come out. I'll try and get down under there and give you a good view of those. All right, so from underneath here, you're gonna have two more Torxes to remove. One right up there above the light, and then one down here below the light that you'll remove as well. So let me get to taking those out. So once you have those two screws from underneath out, you have one more here on the side and at the end of this shroud right here. So take those two off and the rest of the panel will come right off. And there we go. Okay, for routing wires on the side amp installation, you're going to need to remove this panel here and then loosen this panel that's covering the gas tank here. So first things first, you'll want to remove these two Torx screws, and then the Torx screw that is down in here underneath the handlebars, and then the one that is down here in this bottom corner. So we'll get to that right now. With those two removed up here, this panel simply snaps off. Now that we have these two out, we're simply going to snap this panel up some. This is not coming off because a lot of things are still assembled, but this gives you the access that you need for routing the wires with no issue. Okay, now that everything's taken apart, you're going to be doing the actual mounting of the amplifier itself. It's going to come pre-done on this bracket, kind of ready to go. You're going to have a bolt and speed clip that come with the kit that you're going to use for this. So there's a metal tab right here that's flat with an opening on it that you'll be sliding this speed clip over. Once you have that centered in the middle of that so the opening is clear, you'll be ready to put the amplifier in and mount it. I will warn you, this is definitely going to be the most frustrating portion of this installation, that's for sure. So you'll need a 10mm wrench for this. If you have one that's ratcheting style, that will definitely make life a lot easier. You want to really make sure that this tab is centered on that bracket, so you may want to just pre-screw in your bolt just to make sure that you're definitely lined up, because by the time you put the new bracket in here, it's really going to get in the way and be quite frustrating to be dealing with just your fingertips trying to get it started. So I'm going to drop the amplifier in here. It rests on the ABS module down here. The tab goes above that bracket and you run your bolt through it. And get it started. Sometimes you're lucky and it'll thread right in. Sometimes it's a little bit crooked, wants to cross thread, and can be quite annoying. Okay, so now that's fully tightened in there. That's not going anywhere. You'll be routing your wires up above, and then the other speaker output wire will tuck between here as well, kind of tuck towards the back where it frees up. So your two input and output plugs are right here. Power and ground are going to go this way and meet our other plug that will be running here in just a second. You'll be wire tying this end of the amplifier to this hard bundle of wires here just to kind of hold that end in place, and you'll be permanently fixed in there. So at this stage of the installation, you'll have your speaker pod wiring and everything already run. So you'll have these two input and output plugs that you're running to the infinity amp. You'll be running those right down through a gap that's here right in front of the air intake, and that'll bring it right down to the amplifier itself. Those plugs will be here. They are color coded, so you certainly want to make sure you get those right. It certainly will not work if they're backwards. And you're done. So that's going to be your input and output plugs there, and you can wire tie them up here if you'd like, just to kind of keep them from moving around. So our next step is going to be running the power and ground wires on this end. So your power and ground portions are going to be running through a gap that's right up here above this gas tank extension. So once these panels have been made loose previously, there's a little bit of a gap there to fish those wires through. We do supply you with a 14-inch wire tie just to make it easy. You can tape the wires to the end of that and be able to poke them right up through this hole to grab them on the other end. Certainly if you have a grabber tool or anything like that, that will certainly make this easier as well. Any of those can be used. So you'll grab your wire tie here and then just gently pull these through. Once you've got them pulled through with a little bit of tension here, go ahead, plug these two together. You can kind of tuck your wires. These can be wire tied up in here kind of out of the way to again keep those from moving around. And then we'll get to how to route the wires from up top on down to get to the battery itself. So now that we have our wires up here, you're just going to need to run them down behind this panel. There is a decent little bit of a gap behind here that sits above the gas tank, and these tabs go down and lock in, which will kind of help hold your wires in place. But most likely you'll want to take some duct tape or something along those lines to just kind of keep the wires pinned up here so they're not sagging down this panel later. You really just want to keep them in place as you run them down through here behind this panel and then down to where they will tuck behind this trim piece. So you will, after you get your wires down to here, want to loosen up these 4 Torx bolts that are in the seat mounting piece here. That will allow this to rise up just a little bit and be able to tuck those wires in behind it. So this is a T30, by the way, for these screws. So once those are loosened up, you'll have a decent amount of play here to be able to tuck and run your wires up underneath there. So once you get them up in there, they do have to go up in a little ways to kind of get to where it's a free area, but they will be hidden here, but they will not be pinched too hard there. And then you'll continue on, add in your fuse holder, ring connectors, hook up to your battery, and you're good to go.